So I'm just going to spend maybe 20 minutes just outlining to you what the basic structure is of these exam papers. And as I say, this is really, I'm just feeding back to you what the Chief Examiner for the course says is the structure with regard to these papers. So, this course has been running since 2010, and the actual structure of the course, it hasn't changed, and neither has the structure of your exam paper. So you can expect to face exactly the same structure as everyone who has gone before you. Few important points to note. First of all, the questions do follow, and this is why it's so useful to have this extract material, extract 1 through to 5 in your case. The questions do follow the order of the extracts. There's no big secrets about that, and they'll not try and trip you up by putting things in a different order. They do follow the order of the extract material. You'll get 3 questions, and each of those questions is worth 20 marks. Question 1 is obviously split into 1A, 1B, 1C. Question 2 is 2A, 2B and 2C. And then question 3, the final question, is your essay question. It's recommended really, given that it's a 2-hour exam, you ought to be really spending sort of 40 minutes per question. So 1A, 1B, 1C, 40 minutes. 2A, 2B, 2C, 40 minutes, and then the same for your essay at the end. It's a 60-mark paper, as I'm sure you know, and it's 2 hours in length. So this is the general, or not the general, this is the typical structure of the questions on the exam paper. Question 1A is always a 4-mark question, and it is always a question which begins with the directive words which you see behind me. So these are just lifted straight from the spec, and I'll talk a little bit about this later. So define, describe, state and explain, distinguish between. These, to be honest, are for the candidates who are going to get, who are going to struggle probably to get very good marks on this paper, because these are the questions that you just should be able to just learn and regurgitate at the appropriate time, just as you would do with a GCSE paper. Question 2 is always an analyse, and it's always worth 6 marks. I think the key thing to say about the question 2 is you, where possible, really ought to be including some type of diagram in an analysis question. And the reason I would say that is because as soon as you start to describe a diagram, that is analysis, and so then you start to pick up the analysis marks and the analysis content. So always, where possible, try and include a diagram. The scripts will not always have spaces for diagrams, so just put a little footnote on your paper and say see page whatever, and do it on the additional paper at the end. It's recommended practice really. And finally then, question 1C, which is always comment. The comment is evaluate in your specification. So when you're looking through your spec and you're trying to spot questions, that's what you're looking for in terms of comment. Where it says evaluate, that's what you're looking for. You repeat the order for 2A, 2B, 2C, so it's describe, analyse, comment again, and then finally you move into your essay, which is obviously the bit, the hard hitter. This really does sort the men from the boys, the wheat from the chaff, and as I said to Elizabeth Ring, who's the course leader for OCR Economics, I was asked, some of you might be sort of A and A star candidates. And I said to her, Elizabeth, I said, tell me what it is that distinguishes the A's from the A star candidates. And do you know what she said, Jasmine? No?
To do with the conclusion.
Yes. She said it is to do with the conclusion, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So, typical questions that you might be asked are as follows, and my thanks to Mr. Cox at Whitley Bay for sending this one through. So this is a little question bank of typical questions which have gone before. I'll distribute this to your schools and so on. Obviously, you've already got that from Whitley Bay. But these are the questions which have been asked before for 2 marks, for 4 marks, for 6 marks, 10 marks, and for 20 marks. Obviously, if they've been asked before, especially the 2 markers and the 4 markers, the likelihood that they'll be on your paper this time is fairly slim, because obviously they'll try and cover throughout the course of this exam, and of course this is the last year of it, they'll try and cover the whole of the specification. So questions which have gone before are probably less likely to appear this time. So what about the level of detail? We've talked a little bit about this already. So the 4 markers. 4 mark questions, it is just a question of learn it and regurgitate it. Just spew it out at the appropriate point. It'll be some type of defined question. Your question paper that you're probably going to get, I think the first question 1A will be distinguish between absolute advantage and comparative advantage. That's probably going to be what the question will be, given what's in your extract material. And you'll see later on, it is quite easy to pick out what the actual questions will be. Your 6 markers, oh yeah, I should have mentioned this. 3-4 years ago, there wasn't as much graphical data on the extract material, and that has increased in the most recent years. You must, in your answers, especially if you're asked to analyse the data, you must refer back to the charts that you're presented with, or the tables that you're presented with in your answers. And there's a lot more emphasis coming from the board on that at the moment, so don't forget to do that. And on an analyse question, all you're being asked to do is just explain the economic theory. There's no discussion required. You don't have to have a sort of, on the one hand this happens, on the other hand this happens. You don't need to signpost your answers in that way. It is just a straightforward explanation of the theory. And if you know your theory, these questions should be food and drink to you. They really shouldn't be a problem. The 10 markers. What distinguishes a 10 mark question from a 6 mark question? Well, on the 10 mark question, not only do you need a diagram, not only do you need on the one hand, these things will happen, you also need something which will indicate to the examiner that you are looking at the flip side, on the other hand. You're providing some sort of discussion in your answer. It's really important that you do that. And, you know, as I've said here, 2 things. Number 1, please do not say, in my opinion, I think that. Don't write that on your papers. You must feed back a conclusion which is based on the evidence that you're presented with. Or, if it's not the evidence that you're presented with, evidence that you're aware of, and you know, I'm sure that a lot of you subscribe to The Economist or read the Sunday Times, or, you know, we're avid readers at school of The Economist, aren't we, Adam? Yes, we sure are. So, you know, make sure that you make reference to these things if you can. And again, we're emphasising the positive. I'm sure you know the difference between positive economics and normative economics. Normative being, it's an opinion. So if I said to you, in my opinion, smoking is bad for you, that's an opinion. But if I said to you, smoking kills, well, that's a fact. So we're focusing on the positives here whenever you're concluding, because you're trying to give some feedback to the examiner that your conclusion is based upon reason, judgment and fact. Don't sit on the fence in that respect. And then on the last essay question, the final question, you'll all be aware of the levels. Level 1. Sam, what does level 1 mean in an essay question structure? Okay, yes. In your level 1, you're doing definitions, and what else might you be doing? Lydia? Not applying it. Lewis, what might you be doing in a level 1?
Examples.
Examples of what? Okay, possibly, yes. So level 1 is your basic knowledge. You're just outlining the very basics. Michael, talk to us about level 2, if you will.
Like basic explanation and application.
Basic application, exactly. So simple application with regard to your economic theory. In your essay question at A2 level, once you get to L3, you're only up to 10 marks out of 20. So there's an awful lot of emphasis at A2 on your evaluation, which is the level 4. Adam, what do you do at level 3?
Analyse.
You analyse, and what should you be doing at that level, Adam? You should be using diagrams and doing what with those diagrams, Adam? Do you just put the diagram in and leave it?
Explain it.
Yes. You explain it, you use connectives, and you explain what's going on in the diagram. Satya. See, you're getting a little uncomfortable there, Satya. What do you do at level 4? You? Okay, it's an evaluation, and what should the form of that evaluation be? Alice Cassidy.
Like discussion points and then conclusion, like on.
Correct. L3, diagram analysis. L4, level 4, which is where you all want to be. Level 4, band 3 preferably, which is 18 to 20 marks. You need to be doing a two-sided discussion on the one, and I would encourage you, I'm sure staff from the other schools would agree with this as well. I've marked papers for years and years. When you're marking the papers, because you want to get through the papers so quickly, because time is of the essence when you're marking them, you want little signposts in the script from whoever's writing the script. And great signposts for you when you're doing your discussion can be, just put it, at the start of the paragraph on the one hand, and immediately the examiner thinks, hey, this guy knows what he's talking about. He knows his onions. He's starting into discussion. Next paragraph, on the other hand, and then your final paragraph, on balance, evidence suggests that. So there you've got your discussion and your reasoned judgment all coming together, and it's a great way to signpost to the examiner that you know how to set out an essay plan, basically. Right, and that's about all I was going to say on that with regard to the actual structure of the papers. So, first of all, are there any questions on that? And don't be afraid to ask these questions, please. Just raise your hand and shout out any questions. If not, what I'd like to do in a few moments then is to call the people to the front who have, let me just get it here.